On Wednesday, a visibly furious President Donald Trump demanded on Truth Social that a North Carolina man who has been accused of murdering a Ukrainian refugee on a Charlotte train be executed after a quick trial. Mm. Here's what he said on Truth Social. The animal who so violently killed the beautiful young lady from Ukraine who came to America searching for peace and safety. Now, let me stop there. Kind of weird. He seems to understand why people would come, would flee their home countries, Ukraine being under attack by Russia, would flee their home countries and come to the United States. Seems to understand that just fine in her case, but can't seem to understand why refugees from other countries that have been hit by natural disasters or the effects of the US led drug war would want to come to the United States to escape that stuff. He doesn't seem to understand in that context, but understands this. You know why? It's because, well, he gave it away. Beautiful young lady from Ukraine. That's really it. That's really it. But anyway, here's what he said. Continuing, this person should be given a quick, there is no doubt trial and only awarded the death penalty. There can be no other option. I mean, life in prison. That's another option. I mean, that, by the way, life in prison is actually cheaper for the state. So, I mean, executions actually cost a lot more. If you're concerned about cost, after all. I am morally opposed to the death penalty. And so, it just so happens that it works out for my argument that it also tends to be cheaper to keep someone in prison. And it also, doesn't really have the death penalty, doesn't really have that, the effect of, stopping or preventing crime from happening. So, it doesn't prevent murdering somebody. Imagine that, right? The state murdering someone doesn't actually stop other people from murdering people. Weird. But anyway, now here's why Trump is so mad about it. Okay, because the suspect is black. All right, his name is Decarlos Dejuan Brown Jr. And apparently he has some pretty serious mental health issues. His sister recently came out and said, "Look, I believe that he has told me that he's concerned that people are reading his mind, okay, and are plotting against him." And so perhaps he thought, according to his sister, that this woman was attempting to read his mind, and that's why he assaulted her. I don't know, but either way, tragedy. Okay, and look, there is a lot of outrage about this, and some of it's for good reason. Obviously, this woman did not deserve to be murdered, and certainly Brown, if he indeed was the perpetrator, does deserve to be punished for doing that. And I say that because we do have a system where you are innocent until proven guilty. So I'm just being clear about that. That said, he was charged on Tuesday with a federal crime. He will go to trial, and if found guilty on first-degree murder, he will face a punishment of either life in prison or the death penalty. So now the question is, where's the controversy? Well, it's not in the fact that the man has struggled with mental illness his entire life and has a bit of a rap sheet as a result. No, it's because every conservatives are mad that every outlet has not been breathlessly covering this case. Which, okay, it's a tragedy, absolutely. But the man has been arrested, is going to trial, and if found guilty, is going to be punished. So where exactly is the outrage? Where exactly is the injustice? I mean, to me, it seems like the wheels of justice are turning as they are supposed to. I mean, there's no one out there that is defending the horrific actions of the suspect. But see, it's not about that. It's not even about crime. It is about race. They are making it about his race. Conservatives have hitched themselves to this case to try to say, oh, would you look at that? The media is ignoring black on white crime again. That's it. That's really the only reason. Perhaps they're even trying to, use this as an example of, oh, see, look at a race war. No. The reality is, okay, speaking of crime, intraracial or interracial crime, the people who commit crimes often tend to target people who live around them. Okay. So, for example, if this person lives around a lot of black people, they're more likely to victimize a black person. If a white person lives around a lot of white people, they tend to victimize other white people. And this is backed up by FBI crime statistics, by the way. 81% of white victims were killed by other white people, where 91% of black or African American victims were killed by other black people. So, this doesn't have anything to do with a racially motivated killing, okay? And so if you have right-wingers that are trying to argue that, well, they're trying to push a narrative, okay? Trying to push a narrative. Which narrative is that? I mean, take your pick, okay? I think that they want to argue that blacks are inherently violent or something. And that, and so, they will, of course, will try to back that up by talking about crime stats being higher in black neighborhoods and bringing up black on black crime. Here's the thing, though. Researchers have noted that just being a member of a certain race is not a factor here in criminality. No, for the most part, it's socioeconomic. That's what drives crime. Socioeconomics. The reality is that crime, violent crime as well, is often higher in low-income neighborhoods. And it just so happens that there are a lot of low-income neighborhoods that, are primarily inhabited by black people. And that is a result of systemic racism, the lack of good jobs, and investment in those communities. So that's what drives a lot of this crime, okay? And even so, even with high-profile cases like this, violent crime, has been decreasing in this country for a very, very long time. That said, Trump and the far right, they have viscerally responded to this much, much stronger, by the way, than, I don't know, the recent political assassination that happened in Minnesota, where you had a white gunman murdering two Democrats, white Democrats, Melissa and Mark Hortman. Melissa was a top Democrat in the Minnesota House of Representatives. The suspect in that shooting is 57-year-old Vance Bolter, who had notebooks filled with the names of Democratic lawmakers and abortion rights activists. So, I mean, it seems like it's pretty clear that this was political. The man was also a big Trump fan, okay? Now, Trump, for his part, he denounced the Minnesota shootings as, well, they're an act of horrific violence. Oh, but hasn't really called for executing this animal like he did in this case. In fact, he hasn't really talked about this since, which is really strange. I mean, two innocent people were killed, and others were injured. Not only has Trump not really talked about this, but neither does really any other right winger. Okay, this what is a very clear political assassination of Democrats, and yet no one on the right really wants to talk about this. Weird. In fact, look, after it happened, Trump didn't even want to call the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. In fact, Trump told reporters on Air Force One at the time that it would just be a waste of time for him to call up Tim Walz. Quote, I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So I could be nice and call him, but why waste time? Yeah. Why would I waste my time talking about, this Trump supporter who's murdering Democrats when I could be, fueling an attempt to start a race war by highlighting black on white violence? Why not do that? And look, in this shooting, remember, they attempted to label Bolter as being a leftist. A leftist. I mean, seriously. Because of course. It's never their fault. It's never one of them. It's always somebody else. It's always the left or the blacks. Look, no one here is defending the alleged actions of Brown. No one has been claiming that he's a right-winger or anything like that. No, he's a mentally ill man that does have a long criminal history, who allegedly did something incredibly heinous. And if a jury finds that he did do it, then he should be put somewhere where he cannot harm another person and perhaps maybe even get the mental health that he needs. Look, the difference in the reaction here to this case versus other cases, like, for example, or even cases of police brutality, is very, very telling. Very telling. Because more often than not, police brutality is inflicted upon black people by white and, yes, also black police officers. And in those cases, there tends to not be any justice for the victim. That is why there is outrage and protest. That's why. It is just about police brutality. All right. And so Trump and the right wing's reaction here really shows you the difference between the people out there that are actually interested in calling for justice versus those who are really only trying to perpetuate a narrative and perhaps start a race war. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.